Hey, what's going on everybody? Chase here at Rocky Mountain. Today I'm joined with Riley Brough from the RMX Academy. We just finished up a long day of doing a training school, which has been a blast. Learned a lot of good technique tips today. But there was one topic that we wanted to talk about specifically, and we hope you guys help with this conversation. Get the comments started below, but feet on the foot pegs. It's a new fad. Tomac, Sexton, Roczen, all these guys, they stand up through so many corners now. And now you see riding coaches talking about, hey, leave your foot on the foot pegs as much as possible. So Riley, you as a coach, where do you stand with that? Do you tell your guys to try and keep their feet on the pegs as much as possible? Like, kind of, what's your take on that whole thing?
I mean, obviously we're watching some of the fastest guys in the world do it and do it really fast.
Right.
So it is something that we work on. We don't have super specific areas of where we want to see it done. We do feet on the pegs drills, where the kids will do laps, they'll do their sections, and they leave their feet glued to the pegs. Some corners it might be faster for them, some it might be slower, but we're just trying to get that comfort level of having both feet on the pegs, having that inside foot kind of drag through a rut a little bit, get used to that feeling.
And you still see the top guys sit down with their leg out, so it's not like they never not take their feet off the pegs. But so what are the advantages of having that in your arsenal? Like, why would you want to practice that? Why is it important to be able to know, like, okay, I need to leave my feet on through this rut or through this straight?
Yeah, a couple of the advantages that I see, and I would be really curious to ask, an Eli Tomac or Jet Lawrence, someone that's really good at it, what their take is. The reason why I think that they're doing that is because when we're both feet on the pegs, squeezing the bike, so attack position, that's the most control we have of the motorcycle, right? Both feet on the pegs, squeezing. And I think some of what I see from them is they're going so fast, they have so much horsepower underneath them that I think that they're trying to limit the amount of time that their foot spends off of the peg. Right. In my opinion, that's what I see. They're pushing their limits so hard that they're just trying to squeeze as tight as they can, have as much control as they can. And then I also see it conserve energy quite a bit. That it takes time to stick your leg out. It takes time and energy to put your leg out, put it back on the peg. So I see it conserve a little bit of energy. It's just one less movement. And then another thing that I teach my kids is when we're talking about building speed, we talk about all your different movements have to be fast. Right. You can't be fast with slow movements. The faster you're going to come into a corner, you have to go from your attack position to your braking position to your corner position, bang, 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 right? Or else, if you're late to something, then you have a little bobble. So eliminating a movement, it allows you to think about other things.
And your legs, not possibility of getting it caught on a rut. Yeah. A lot of times too, like if your foot's off the peg, you have a tendency to let it dangle and you're not squeezing the motorcycle. So there's definitely advantages and disadvantages. But that being said, what are some technique tips that you would give to riders? So practice feet on the foot pegs. And I think for Tomac and these guys, it's so second nature to them that they don't think like, oh, I should be keeping my feet on the foot pegs. Like, they just do it. Yeah. But that's because they practice this stuff. But what are some technique tips? Because there's one specifically we were talking about that you think can help riders have better technique for when they are practicing and wanting to stand more.
So when we're talking about, standing feet on the foot pegs, we talk about that attack position. So we're balls of the feet, we're legs, we want them towards the back half of the bike, fairly straight. You don't want to lock out your knees, but legs fairly straight, and then you're hinged at the hips, and that's when you're hinged at the hips coming forward, that's getting your weight to the front end. Yeah. So that's keeping your front end balanced. And then a sneaky little thing that you can do that transfers more energy than you would think is you can drop your heels down.
This helped me more than anything.
Yeah. Okay. So if you're on your heels, you're on your arches, you can't do this. So that's where being on the balls of your feet is super important. You can shift your weight just by dropping your heels. Little places that it helps is like when you need to pull a little wheelie, wheelie over a breaker bump, or even if it's a big set of rollers and you're trying to wheelie through them. We have a tendency to do that all with our shoulders, right? You're pulling the front end up. Well, if you can drop those heels, you're transferring that weight, you're squatting the back end, and that'll kind of pull the front end up. So now you're starting to figure out how to wheelie through a set of rollers or something, almost with no arms, all based off of just dropping your heels.
A huge thing I noticed too with that is, like, we did this NGPC race where it was a sand track, super bumpy, and when I was dropping my heels, it forces weight onto the back of the motorcycle and it helps just get much better forward drive. Yeah. That's something that I noticed.
Yeah, if you consciously when you are in a straightaway or any situation and you consciously combine grabbing a handful of throttle with dropping your heels, it just, it squats the rear end and gets the maximum amount of traction to the rear tire and can really help drive you forward.
So the last thing that I want to talk about, reiterating what Riley just said, is when you drop the heels, is something that really helped me too, is, you know, when you talk about the correct riding position, butt out, you know, knees back, I think a big mistake a lot of riders make is when their knees start to creep forward. And so when I drop my heels, it automatically pushes my hips back and out, and it keeps my knees behind me where they should be, and it almost helps me just lock into that correct position. So practice that though. You got to make it second nature. Like Riley said, it comes natural, but you got to have it in your arsenal, and then use those tips to have the correct position while you're practicing that drill. So if you guys have questions though or comments, we'd love to get that answer for you. Leave that in the comment section below. You can find Riley at the RMX Academy on Instagram. What is it, at RMX Academy?
Yes, sir.
All right, so if you're a Utah local, Colorado, Idaho, surrounding state, they do them all over the place. These guys are amazing coaches. They teach you a lot of great tips, so get signed up if you want to do one of these things. As always, subscribe to the Rocky Mountain YouTube channel if you like this video. Stay up to date. I am Chase. We'll see you on the trails.